The U.S. China tech rivalry is seeping into cell phones, with Huawei and Apple launching new handsets in mainland China. In recent years, buying Huawei cell phones in China has become a symbolic act of patriotism or love for the party. So when Apple launched its new cell phone, how did the Chinese people react? Apple's iPhone 15 series officially launched for sale in mainland China on September 22nd. A major store in Beijing with great significance was set up at 6:45 a.m. on that day to prepare for the sale, and the store was redesigned to ensure orderly sales and pickups when it opened at 8 a.m. Take a look at the lineups. Staff at this Apple store in Beijing said that from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the time for pre-sale consumers to pick up their orders. Only those with pickup receipts are allowed to line up, while other consumers aren't allowed to queue up for the time being. It was reported that at 7 a.m., there were already more than 20 customers lined up in front of the store waiting. It was reported that the man at the front of the queue came to wait in line at 1 a.m. in order to be first. It's similar in Shanghai, where the first customer of the East Nanjing Road store was reported to have arrived at 5 a.m. Now we're at the pedestrian street of Nanjing Road in Shanghai. In this video, you can see the Apple store and Huawei store at the pedestrian street. Today is September 22nd, which is also the official launch day of Apple's new products. There are a lot of people in front of the Apple store right now. Now I'm inside the Apple store. Look at the amount of people. Over the past 3 years, with Huawei being restricted in chips and other factors, Apple has become a dominant player in the high-end cell phone market. Data from the International Data Corporation shows that in the first half of 2023, Apple's market share of high-end cell phones above $600 in China was 67%, still maintaining a dominant position, while Huawei was at 15.6%. Here's the Huawei store. Right in front of us is the Huawei Global Flagship Store on Nanjing Road pedestrian street. It's raining today in Shanghai, so there aren't a lot of people on the pedestrian street. I'm going to go over there and take a look at the store. That's the entrance right there. There aren't a lot of people in the store right now. We're now inside the Huawei Global Flagship Store. Take a look. Not a lot of people are inquiring about buying phones. Compared to the Apple Store, it's much worse. There are still a lot of people who like Apple phones. Now that we're done browsing, have a look. The traffic inside isn't really comparable to the Apple Store. According to Counterpoint Research, US buyers will have to wait 10 days to receive the iPhone 15 base model, compared to a 6-day wait for the previous generation device, which launched last year. Apple's top-of-the-line iPhone 15 Pro Max has increased pre-order wait times to a record level. Major upgrades to both models have driven new demand and longer wait times for both. In China, which is Apple's largest overseas market, wait times for the basic model have quadrupled compared to last year, and the Pro Max is even more so. According to Chinese news agency Cailian Press, Apple's official website crashed within 10 minutes of the sales launch of the iPhone 15 series, while at its official flagship store at the Tmall, a Chinese-language retail platform, the first batch of iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max were sold out within 1 minute of the sales launch. This shows that even in the face of Huawei's preemptive launch of its rival devices, such as the Mate 60 Pro, Apple's appeal is still much higher than Huawei's.
Hi
everyone, today, September 22nd, 2023, is the first day of the iPhone 15 series launch. We are here at the Apple retail store in Shanghai IMAP Mall to check out the lineups. In front of me is this year's new iPhone 15 series released by Apple. It's now 9:40 a.m. The normal opening time for this Apple store is 10 a.m., but it opens early today. There are already a lot of buyers waiting in line. Even the rain can't quench their enthusiasm. This is the main color of this year's iPhone 15 Pro series, the original color of titanium. Some customers consider buying Apple for this reason.
Because Apple phones are very durable. I used this Apple 11 for a long time, so I bought a new iPhone 15.
On the day Apple opened for sale, a classic welcome ceremony took place and people were enthusiastic. Deirdre O'Brien, Apple's Senior Vice President of Retail Operations, also came to the Sandy Twin store and said, "There's probably no other country that's as excited about our new product as China. I'm also exploring the store today, and oh my gosh, it's full of people. Full of people." This follows Huawei's sudden launch of 3 models, including the Mate 60 Pro at the end of August. It soon attracted the attention of the US government. Since 2019, the US has banned Huawei from using certain chip-making tools. The US government said the Communist Party-backed company posed an unacceptable national security risk because of the espionage concerns Huawei created for the US telecommunication networks. The chips used in Huawei's new cell phones are believed to have technology from the US. On the evening of September 7th, the US Department of Commerce said it was working to obtain more information about the characteristics and composition of the chips in Huawei's new cell phones that may violate trade restrictions. US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo told a House hearing on September 19th, "We have no evidence that they can make 7nm chips on a large scale. Analysts believe the chips in Huawei's phones are made by a technological breakthrough by Chinese chip foundry SMIC. SMIC supplies chips to Huawei, and it's also under US sanctions." After the US Secretary of Commerce questioned Huawei's cell phone chips as a violation of trade restrictions, China's Foreign Ministry responded by objecting to the US's discriminatory practices against Chinese companies. On September 20th, 2 other sources with knowledge of the situation told Reuters that a division of Huawei was shipping a new type of made-in-China chip for use in surveillance cameras. This leak reveals yet another sign that the Chinese tech giant is trying to circumvent American export controls. The Biden administration imposed a series of sweeping export controls on the CCP in 2020 in an effort to sever its ties to advanced US semiconductor chip-making technology. Washington is now considering new restrictions on the scale of artificial intelligence microchips. Just before Apple's pre-sale in China, the Wall Street Journal reported on September 6, 2023, that the CCP had mandated that officials in central government agencies not use Apple's iPhones and other foreign-branded devices at work or bring them into their offices. The report said people familiar with the matter remarked that in recent weeks, employees of the Chinese government had received instructions from their superiors in work chat groups or meetings. The sources said that Beijing had been restricting the use of iPhones at work by government officials in some organizations for years. Beijing has stepped up its efforts to ensure that its rules are strictly enforced. The news attracted widespread attention. The CCP has tried to deny it, but its language is vague.
China has not issued laws, regulations, or policy documents that prohibit the purchase and use of foreign brand phones, such as Apple's. But recently, we did notice a lot of media exposure of security incidents related to Apple phones. The Chinese government attaches great importance to information and cybersecurity and treats both domestic and foreign companies as equals. We also hope that all mobile phone companies operating in China can strictly abide by China's data security law and the personal information protection law and other laws and regulations, strengthen information security management, and protect the consumers' data stored in mobile phones from theft by any person or organization, so as to ensure information security.
Huawei's new phone drove the company's sale and was among the best-selling phones in China a week before Apple's latest iPhone was released. But with Apple's new model on sale, the scene of Apple fans lining up is happening again. It's another sign of voting with one's feet, or action speaks louder than words. I thought I could enter the store after queuing up from below, but I ended up queuing for another 20 minutes under the sun. At that moment, I didn't realize that I still had to wait in line once I entered the store. It was so crowded. Fellow shoppers, what's going on? Didn't everyone say they wouldn't buy Apple phones? Look at the sea of people. Everyone's waiting for the iPhone 15. Many have their hands raised. I don't know what they're doing. Everyone said Huawei, buy Huawei, not Apple. Who knows, the ones who buy Apple are overflowing. Meanwhile, on September 25th, Huawei's new launch, the Huawei fans who came to the show clearly expressed why they wanted to buy Huawei phones. I think domestic chips are better, they're safer. After Huawei was sanctioned by the United States, this product launch has a significant meaning. That is, even if the sanctions are so malicious, they cannot affect the development of human technology. This is a very meaningful thing, and something that can inspire our future generations to move forward. However, there was an outpouring of complaints online, saying the launch failed to reveal more details about Mate 60. The CEO of Huawei's consumer business group, however, did nod to the smartphone in his opening remarks at the event when he gave a special thanks. Today is a special day. Special thanks to the whole nation for their tremendous support. Especially since the launch of the Mate 60 Pro Pioneer program, our products have been widely loved and trusted by everyone. We are working overtime urgently to manufacture even more. In fact, over the past 4 years, our Harmony OS has been continuously evolving, and the entire Harmony OS operating system has now exceeded 700 million users. Just over a month ago, we released Harmony OS 4.0, and in just over a month, it already has over 60 million users. At its product launch on September 25th, Huawei also touted its own semiconductor design for wireless headphones, but it didn't provide details about the chip either. Could it be that there's too much secrecy behind the chip issue that Huawei is trying to avoid? In more places, the reality is that Huawei's cell phone stores are relatively quiet. Opposite the Apple store is the Huawei store. It feels like the Huawei store isn't as busy or popular as Apple.
You see, there don't seem to be many people in the Huawei store today. This is the Huawei store today. It doesn't seem as busy as the Apple store. I'm just showing you guys what's like in the Huawei store today. Look, here is what's inside.
With the CCP using nationalism to stir up anti-American sentiment, the question of whether to buy Huawei or Apple seems to have polarized into a question of whether one loves one's country or not. However, putting aside the imposed patriotic sentiment, some Chinese people have compared the Mate 60 Pro with the Apple 14 Pro. Both are similarly priced. After restoring the factory settings, let's first look at how many pre-installed third-party apps the Mate 60 Pro has. Let's count. A total of 27 pre-installed apps, while the same price level iPhone 14 Pro has 0 pre-installed third-party apps. Huawei is indeed far ahead. Far ahead of its peers. Everything is far ahead. More than 50% ahead of its peers. It's far ahead of what's far ahead. Next is the ad situation of the apps that come with the phone. Mate 60 Pro's phone, SMS settings, camera, photos, clock, and memo all have no ads. Of course, these are the most basic and essential apps. It would be crazy to have ads on them. Huawei has a lot of ads, but not to this point. But the rest of the apps that come out of the system more or less have ads. The first one, the weather app. Mate 60 Pro's weather app. Its homepage is normal, not a single ad. But once you open the submenu in the weather app, you can view more weather, air quality, life index, etc. Branching down is all sorts of info, such as various news headlines. You can scroll down infinitely and there's no end. It isn't the case with iPhones in the same price range. Not only are there no ads on the front page of the weather app, but there are no ads on the secondary pages. The user experience is very good. The CCP is now cracking down on Apple, forbidding civil servants and state-owned enterprises from using it. At the same time, it vigorously promotes Huawei, choosing the launch date of Huawei's new handset to coincide with the visit of the U.S. Secretary of Commerce. These actions reflect the CCP's guard against and pressure on Apple. However, as China and the US are decoupling, Apple is also shifting its supply chain and diversifying its production layout. This move has irritated Beijing, Huawei fans are also annoyed with Apple. All you spammers with Apple phones, stay low on the internet. Don't say anything you shouldn't. Otherwise, don't blame me for cursing you or asking me why I curse. This is my cyber law enforcement license. Huawei has been offering high wages in order to compete for the market. The mainland media China Business Network reported that in September 2023, Huawei factory in Dongguan City, Guangdong Province, recruited workers with a monthly salary of 8,000 to 12,000 renminbi, or 110 to 1,650 US dollars. Interviews can be arranged for temporary workers. Age requirement is 18 to 40 years old. Apple's OEM factory is Foxconn. At the entrance of Foxconn factory in Shenzhen, you can see some recruiting agents compete to recruit workers for Huawei. They hope to recruit 2,000 to 3,000 people, whose main job is to make cell phones for Huawei. According to the website of Foxconn Group, its department that specializes in assembling Apple cell phones in Shenzhen's Longhua district pays regular workers who have passed the probationary period a monthly salary of 5,500 to 8,000 yuan, or 752 to 1,100 US dollars, while temporary workers earn a combined monthly wage of 680 to 1,025 US dollars.